Jack Donovan, and you are listening to or watching PH2T3R, a journal for solar culture. And we're having a special episode today with one of the members of the First Men, Dr. Dilanka is here. And Dr. Dilanka is actually from Sri Lanka, which not many people know is once the home of the 10-headed demon, Ravana he's a Rakshasa demon, I believe is what it's called. But we read the Ramayana earlier this year, and I don't think you even did that before that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But it was kind of a cool detail. We're like, wait, you're from the demon place.
I've actually visited
the
place without having read the Ramayana first. So I had all these pictures while I was reading it that I had to go back in my archive. I was like, oh, that's what that guy was about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Full circle.
So, but we have D here actually because D is, everybody in the First Men is a character of some kind, and D is no exception to that. And D has recently been on adventures in Africa, doing all kinds of crazy things. So we're just going to talk about some of his adventures in Africa and some of the things that he's been doing there. I thought it would make an interesting podcast because who does this stuff, right? So, D, where did you go?
Well, first of all,
yes.
Just to clarify, Africa is not a country.
Okay.
A lot of people,
yeah, it's a continent. There are many countries.
A lot of people out there think like when you say went to Africa, it's a huge place.
Yes,
right? So I specifically went to Gabon, which is, if you're picturing the continent of Africa in your mind, imagine the center, then go all the way to the left. So you're in central equatorial Africa, by the water. And the capital in Gabon is Libreville. And where I went specifically was about 3 to 4 hours away from the capital, into the remote bush, where there is no electricity, there was no running water or functioning toilets or internet or any of the conveniences that we all depend on in our modern day lives.
Right.
And the reason I went there was to meet and study with a tribe called Bwiti. And my initial interest was, I'm fairly experienced and knowledgeable about plant medicines and psychedelics. The one plant medicine that I felt like I knew the least about was something called Iboga, which is considered to be like the Mount Everest of psychedelics or plant medicines.
Okay.
And there's a tribe in Africa called the Bwiti that has used this for tens of thousands of years in part of their rituals. So you cannot separate Iboga from the Bwiti. They kind of go together.
Okay.
So I basically went to Africa to learn about Iboga. Then my first trip was in 2021, and I went there without knowing anything. It was kind of like getting thrown into the wolves with no context or no reference. I ended up actually getting initiated into the tribe, and ended up doing a rite of passage within a 2-week period. And the first time I consumed Iboga was also with the Bwiti, which is not standard, but I also did it deliberately because I knew that all my future experiences would be colored by this first one.
Right.
So I wanted the first one to be the real thing. So that's kind of like the general gist of what brought me to Africa. And this was my second trip. I spent probably 6 weeks total there. 2021, I spent 2 weeks. Most recently, in 2024, I spent a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you go back to the same tribe?
Same tribe, same everything.
So they know you?
They do know me. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, what is the experience like?
The Iboga experience?
Yeah.
So when you're getting initiated, the Bwiti don't play.
Okay.
Like, it's not, you're obviously like written about men and masculinity and all these things. It's a big boy toy.
Okay.
And so you get initiated. Initiated meaning the initiation symbolizes like your first date almost with the spirit of Iboga. Iboga is almost like a person.
Okay.
It's a spirit that you're building a relationship with long term.
Okay.
And your initiation consists of you consuming the most amount of Iboga you'll ever probably consume.
So you're doing like a heroic dose to start.
Yeah. I mean, granted, heroic dose is subjective.
Right,
like if you're a 100-pound girl,
yeah.
that's never zero experience.
Right.
Like 2 grams of mushrooms could be heroic, right?
Right.
But the Bwiti will definitely force you to do a large amount because that's just the way they do it. And their ceremonies can last. It's typically about 8 hours overnight. Mm-hmm. You could be from 8 hours to multiple days. My particular initiation was, somewhat graphic, in the sense that like this Iboga, by the way, I'm a little sensitive to taste. Mm-hmm. Iboga is arguably the worst tasting plant medicine.
Okay.
It's very bitter, and when I did my initiation, they gave me an initial dose, and you're basically sitting in front of a mirror, you're sitting on a little stool, staring into your own reflection in the mirror, and you have this little shaker, and which is there on purpose to see how your motor skills. It's a visual indicator of your motor skills almost. Okay. Because if someone stops shaking, you're like, why does he stop shaking? Right. And when I first took my first dose, I was in the experience. Iboga is actually, it's technically, I'm sure you've heard the term entheogen. Okay. Entheogen kind of describes all the hallucinogens, mushrooms and whatnot. But Iboga is technically something called onerogen. Okay. Which is a plant medicine that creates dreamlike states. So you're surprisingly lucid. Like I could snap out of it and have a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. But if you're staring into space, these like almost augmented reality like visions start forming. Okay. And it's also it's like an interactive bridge to the spirit world. So you could interact with the spirit world, and it'll respond back. Okay. Which is kind of weird, strange. So I mean, I was fairly stable when I first did the initiation. Then there's a water bottle, and my spiritual father in Africa came over, and there's 3 of us. There's me, there's another African kid, and a friend of mine. He had this heap of like Iboga, and my mouth was dry. There's like no saliva, and it was like 2 a.m, and I was like, oh shit, I think like. And you can't reject it. It's not like you can't do no thanks. Like you've already signed up for this. Right. Came over and just shoved it in my mouth, like no saliva, and I'm like, oh boy, this one's gonna be a hard one. And I'm trying to, and it's super bitter, and I'm trying to like swallow this thing, and I'm like, I need a little boost with water. So there's a water bottle. I take the water bottle. And I'm drinking it, and as it's going down, I started purging. So the water bottle was like maybe 60% of water. As I'm drinking it, I threw up into it. Oh. So you can see this like column of vomit that goes into the water bottle, right? And I was like, oh fuck! Like this triggered the whole thing. Yeah. Then I put it down, and I started purging into my bucket. Yeah. Which I'm sure triggered other guys purging also. Okay. Right, because the guy on the left started purging, and his bucket, he missed the bucket while he's purging, and I'm like, at least I got the bucket. He's not even purging the bucket, and no one's noticed. Yeah. And the other guy started purging, so we're on the whole purge fest. Okay. Then, and these are like not normal purging, man. It feels like kind of like exorcist kind of level purging. Like projectile like purging. It's almost like guttural. Like I feel like you're like coming from the soul. It's deep within. Yeah.
People have all different kinds of fun in the world.
This is not different flavors. So it's this like, after I'm done purging, I'm like, I need to clean my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a language barrier. I don't speak French or any of the other languages that the Bwiti speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to signal, like, because there's a ceremony happening while this is going on, by the way. There's people chanting and singing and drums. I feel like I'm the main event, but I'm also not the main event.
Yeah.
I'm part of their ceremony, and they're part of my ceremony. So I basically decided, okay, the vomit taste in my mouth is worse than the vomit taste in the water bottle. So I took the water bottle again and cleaned my mouth with the vomit water, which was a slight improvement based on all the options I had.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was my initiation, like the most violent part of it,
Right.
initiation. But the whole thing lasts maybe 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then after outside the temple, maybe another 8 hours for recovery. So the whole thing is about probably 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, until you're back to baseline.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, how would you say? Would you say that it changed you?
I mean, definitely changed. It's impossible not to be changed by a trip to Africa and all these things, right?
Yeah.
Now the question is, I feel like I'm still a student at the very early stages of this.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't want to come to any conclusions.
Okay.
And I also don't know where this is going to lead.
So you're like a white belt in this thing.
I'm a white belt in Bwiti for sure.
Yes.
Bwiti literally just means the study of life.
Okay.
So you can't have the answers to life having gone there twice, right?
Right. So you use this medicine to do the study of life.
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely I've heard people say it's like a warrior's medicine.
Okay.
Relevant to your work.
Sure.
But it's definitely a relationship you build with the medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a more long-term thing. And I have some that I take regularly now, but not enough to be like it's sub-threshold. I'm functional.
Right.
But it definitely changed me, and I'm equally fascinated and curious and intrigued that it's probably going to keep me coming back to this going forward. But I don't know the implications of where this is headed. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a conclusion yet. Like, to me, this is like, if you're looking at the rituals, for example,
Mm-hmm.
it's the most elaborate rituals with like the most depth that I've ever experienced on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's very like Indiana Jones level.
Yeah.
So when you experience something like that,
Yeah.
and you have this medicine that's associated with it, and you see the effect of it on people that are around you,
Yeah.
it's hard to ignore. Like there's something here.
Right.
But I don't claim to have all the answers.
Right.
About what it is or where it's going. And it's also, I'm careful about that because it's a trap. Like people will come up with the answer or they settle on a conclusion
Mm-hmm.
because they want to,
Right.
which would prevent them from actually being receptive to the actual lessons going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what made you? How did you get in contact with people to go and do this?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I have a filmmaker friend named Javier Prato.
Mm-hmm.
He's making a documentary. He's been making a documentary called Ancient Medicines
Okay.
for almost a decade. It's supposed to come out. And it's a 5-part series about plant medicines
Mm-hmm.
and naturally occurring entheogens. During COVID, which is the worst time to go to Africa,
Right.
I basically called him. I say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how life-changing was Iboga?
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was a 10. I go, okay, interesting. Are you planning on going back to Gabon again?
Yeah.
And he said, actually, I'm thinking about it because I got new equipment, new drone.
Right.
And I started my journey in Gabon 10 years ago with this first episode. So I'm going to go back to refresh the footage.
Right.
And I said, okay, if possible, try to get me into the trip. So he contacted one of his friends, and also he was featured in the documentary. Mm-hmm. His name was Bwiti, aka Nyangu. Okay. This is African Bwiti name. Nyangu Mabenga Mamikuku is his name.
Of course it is. Of course that's his name.
All right.
Yes.
And my Bwiti name, I think, is the coolest Bwiti name.
Okay.
It's Bwiti.
What?
I mean, it's meant to be. You know, if your
right.
Bwiti name is Bwiti,
yeah.
I have to.
I mean, does it get longer?
It can with like it can, but like the general, like the first Bwiti name I got was that's the other thing. That's a key thing is after during your initiation, you get a Bwiti name.
Right.
And my Bwiti name was Bwiti, which is pretty, so he contacted Nyangu, and it was supposed to be 3 of us going back to Africa during COVID, and that group grew to like 6 people. 7 people. And you're right, it's not like a trip you could book on Orbitz or any of these websites. Right. It's like real.
I was on Travelocity. I was just like, I want to do some.
It's an Airbnb experience.
Right. By the way, we are in an Airbnb. If you wondered why, I'm in a white back room with a Macrobay Dreamcatcher.
Exactly.
Here, we're in Joshua Tree, getting ready to do a fire ritual. Tomorrow, and they're going to do some shooting and some things like that. But this is the style of the town.
We're catching dreams and catching wives,
catching dreams and catching wives. That's right.
We headed there, and he was trying to not let me. He was trying to convince me not to go.
Right.
Because I was the only person in the group that had never done Iboga.
Yeah.
Everybody else has done Iboga, and the whole thing was you first do Iboga with them, then you go to Africa. Like first you get a taste of what this is,
right? Then
you go to Africa. You don't go to Africa first.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of mild arguments back and forth.
Right.
I ended up actually going, and it worked out, and I'm glad I did it. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, I'm limited edition, meaning they'll never do it again. What they did to me, like the exception. they'll never take somebody for the first time to Africa,
right?
Having never done Iboga. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, that's what I've been told. It was definitely like it's a world within a world out there. As far as like ceremonies go, the Bwiti ceremony is unmatched. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at like stamina and electricity and energy, it's just 8 hours of persistent, constant, no bathroom breaks, no pee breaks. It just goes and goes and goes, man. It just goes and goes and goes.
It doesn't seem like, from what you've told me so far, it doesn't seem like that would be a problem.
Well, you're also on you're on a ceremonial dose of Iboga,
right?
Which helps to stay up and everything.
Yeah.
And there's so many little things that are very intricate details that are woven into the ceremonies that are meant to keep you alert.
Right.
And if you're not alert, they'll kind of bitch slap you.
Okay.
In front of everybody. But even though you don't understand the language, within the bitch slap, the communication and the intention and the vibe is communicated.
Yeah. And that's nonverbal communication.
Communication.
Bitch slap is like a universal language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious that the instruction is like you're messing up the vibe, but like stop messing up the vibe. Right? That's like the vibe. That's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
You're just fully engaged, and you're dancing.
Yeah.
And there's the whole village is engaged in there,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Like as far as like ceremonies go, probably the most electric I've ever experienced.
Mm.
Yeah.
So do you think it's because of the length of it, or or just the constant energy? Like obviously there's constant drumming. You're like, and you know.
Well, part of it is they do it for symbolic, like spiritual reasons, like overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It's sundown to sunup.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Right.
Nice.
And it's all kind of it's kind of like that's their general time of how the ceremonies go.
Okay.
It starts late night,
Mm-hmm.
and it's over when the sun's coming up.
So the 8 hours. Yeah. Makes sense.
Right. And the dancing. It's not just dancing and chanting and everything. There's also little interludes of people giving speeches, people getting blessings from people.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's any drama in the village or something, there's an elephant in the room, for example, that will get addressed. Right? And so it's almost like it's a collective community tribal healing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That involves dance. It's all medicine. All of it is medicine. Like Iboga is medicine, yes, but the ceremony is also medicine.
Mm-hmm.
The dancing is medicine. The music is medicine. All of it surrounding it is all medicine. Yeah.
What do you think makes it medicine?
The healing aspect of it, like it's also a sensation.
Right.
Like you go in there. I don't know if you remember this, but like, I think it was just recently that there's a research paper that came out that basically said, this is just an unrelated thing that I'm relating into the Bwiti.
Sure.
It basically said dancing had more antidepressive effects than antidepressants.
Makes sense.
Right. So I think that's a huge part of it.
Right.
I have not observed obesity to be commonplace over there, or maybe even depression.
Okay.
It's tricky because of the language barrier, but I'm
Right.
trying to like pay attention. So far, the answer is I haven't observed it relative to the West.
Right.
And I think it's about 40% unemployment rate in Gabon and something like 60-70% abject poverty.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have anything relative to if you're in the West.
Right.
But because they don't have anything, they have no choice but to have each other.
Okay.
So it seems to be the community aspect is much more solid and reinforced by all these ceremonies. So it's a like being in a tribe is a feeling, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is you can't articulate the feeling. It's hard to articulate a feeling because it's like you have to be there, kind of thing. You have to experience it, or you have to be there. It's the moment you try to articulate it, you lose resolution, I think.
Well, I mean, being part of a tribe obviously is a lifelong experience.
Correct.
As well. I mean,
Correct.
you can't articulate a lifelong experience. Like, this is what it feels to be
Right.
like in my family.
Correct.
You know, like that, because that's what it is. I mean, it's your relationship with the people you've been around with your entire life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're reading on Instagram, like, your vibe is your tribe, man. Your tribe is your vibe, man. Like, you come across these quotes and you're like it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But if there's a way to measure the quality of the feeling you feel
Mm-hmm.
within a tribe,
Yeah.
I would say the Bwiti is the highest I've felt.
Okay.
You know, the order is obviously in there.
Right.
You know, but it's kind of
Well, I mean, when you have a group of people who have a shared fate,
correct.
that's one of those things that changes the whole dynamic of these people are together, you know, and that makes a big difference because then they're working together as a whole.
Oh yeah. I mean, not only that, like, they're surviving off the bush
Yeah.
with a secret oral tradition that have been passed on over tens of thousands of years.
Right.
I mean, the dynamics are pretty compelling. And yeah, the ceremonies are, I think, I'm still like a student of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just ordered a freaking 800-page book on the ethnography of Bwiti by Princeton University.
Okay.
Because there's not a lot written about them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious what this thing is about, because the internal workings are secret. Right. So I'm curious what a bunch of university researchers have compiled, so I could compare against my actual experience of what.
Do you think that they would bullshit the researchers? Because that happens with tribes.
For sure.
In the past, it's kind of a thing with anthropological research. Like they're like, tell them this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, like even the bullshitting itself is a bonding mechanism.
Yeah.
Right? Like we bullshitted them. Ah.
Yeah. Oh no, totally.
Right.
Well, because I would say culture comes from in jokes.
Right.
Yeah, it's an inside joke, so then that becomes
internal memes, right?
Yeah, exactly. What is it? The things that the electricians. Chris always brings up things that electricians. Get the.
Like jargon or something?
Yeah, well, there's a thing. It's the bolt stretcher.
The bolt stretcher. What is a bolt stretcher?
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
But they tell like apprentices to go get a bolt stretcher.
Right.
And the apprentices go around and look for the bolt stretcher, and it's like, what's the bolt stretcher? And I think someone tried to do that to me. I think in an Instagram comment with it, like, you need your blinker fluid needs changing. Like while I was trying, and that's a thing that car people make fun of, like people who don't know anything about cars.
That's funny,
yeah. So that's the same thing I can imagine that they would probably do too.
Yeah, I mean, 800 pages.
And they can joke about it.
Yeah. 800 pages is a lot of pages.
Yeah.
And it's from the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. And the thing with Bwiti is like, there's different branches and different factions, and they're all practicing this stuff in secret overnight. Like in the middle of the night, in remote villages. So it's even difficult for the Bwiti to keep track of the Bwiti.
For sure. So is it sectarian? Like, are there different like groups of like they broke off? I can't believe you're doing the tradition this way.
Yes.
So there's like contention.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and then listen, I don't want to put the Bwiti on a pedestal.
Yeah.
There's they have their own versions of drama,
right?
And it's no different than if the human nature is human nature,
of course.
But within the human nature, and the same drama and the same bullshit that everybody else deals with, there's just beautiful culture and rituals and history that's just been preserved over thousands of years, and I was just grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm most likely gonna go again next year.
That's wild. So now you're just like, now I have to go to Gabon every year.
Yeah, it's like one of the. I think that I think it's gotten. It might be getting in that way. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It might be an annual pilgrimage to Gabon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a Gabon and Africa is an ordeal, man. I'm not gonna. It's not a vacation. Like some of my friends think it's like a scene from Lion King or like Safari or something. But
I can't imagine that you get like fresh towels at the Holiday Inn or anything.
No. I would say I tolerate Gabon because of the Bwiti.
Right.
Yeah, because getting malaria and having diarrhea is not fun.
Right.
It's not my idea of a vacation exactly.
All right, so you brought a torch with you.
I did bring a torch.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is a Bwiti torch, and it's called a mupeto, and it's the core of it is something called okume. Okume is a type of tree, and there's a tree sap in the okume tree that is naturally flammable. So everything in here this is made by my Bwiti brother named Guanata, who is a torch master, and he handmade this, and the core of it is basically okume tree sap that's very compressed, and it's basically one of the torches you use in a Bwiti ceremony, which is a very instrumental element of Bwiti ceremonies, because it's in the dark and fire is instrumental and a huge part of it. In fact, when the ceremonies are over, even to put the fire out, there's a mini ceremony.
Right.
Makes
sense.
Which you're kind of doing it too, right?
Yeah. That was Vic's idea, actually. Vic was like, I mean, we might not do it tomorrow, but Vic was like, well, we did all this thing to put the fire in. To light the fire, we need to do something when we put it out. So that made sense. We've done that a few times,
Early stages of culture developing.
Exactly. Exactly.
The question is, are you going to be here for 10,000 years to see where this is going?
Well, someone will. The idea, I kept telling people recently that the odor fire, it's a good way to describe where we're at, is to say, imagine if the Freemasons were in year 2.
Right.
Like how much stuff they would have compared to how much stuff they have in, you know, like, how many rituals, how many, like, the organization and all that. So if they were just, some stonemasons or whatever they were, who knows, just do these crazy rituals. Yeah. And then, some guys got together and they figured some stuff out and we just go from there. So at some point, somebody in Africa was like, this disgusting plant, how about we eat it and then do an 8-hour ritual about it? They're like, yeah.
By the way, the Bwiti has an incredible knowledge of all the plants in the bush and various use cases for it.
Well, they would have to.
They have to, right? But it's impressive.
Right.
Like, there's something for everything.
Yeah.
This is pretty awesome. And you have to irritate it for it to burn. Like, it doesn't burn continuously. It's designed to turn off, which I think is also kind of by design because it forces you to pay attention. And paying attention is a central part of Bwiti ceremonies. You have to pay attention. And once you irritate it, the compressed okume sap kind of expands and it helps the flame keep going. And it goes all the way down.
Yeah. So eventually just burns all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah. All the way down to the bottom. Yeah. And you dance with it. And there's a lot of things attached to it. Yeah.
And it stays burning while you're dancing.
It stays burning while you're dancing, and you use it to also whisk away the bad spirits. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a Bwiti torch. It's pretty incredible in my opinion. Anything handmade of this caliber, I think I'm mind blown.
Yeah. I mean, it's about intention.
Oh, yeah.
Like if someone spends a lot of time making something for a reason, then it has more meaning just generally because someone sat and thought about that for a really long time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you could tell, like, it's been kind of passed down, man.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Cool. Well, do you have any, closing thoughts about your experiences there, or?
I mean, I'm still just a student, as I said. I just told Jack here. I've spent 6 weeks total with the Bwiti, which is nothing. And there's a language barrier, French, Punu, Michogo, Bwiti languages. I'm learning French now just so I could try to so I could improve my study of Bwiti.
Right.
But this is a lifelong path, the path of Bwiti and Iboga for me. And maybe we do like a follow-up episode in 5-10 years. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But other than that, I'm just here for the ride.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I just thought this would be something interesting to share with you guys because it's not every day that you meet someone who's gone to Africa and done days and days and days of ceremonies. So much of what people write about rituals are from the 800 page. That's what we know about things, but to actually go and have that experience with those people is a different thing altogether.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to share that with all of our watchers and listeners and so forth. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you, D.
Well, thanks for having me, Jack.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, and I'm grateful to be in your presence too, as you're engineering your rituals.
Yes.
We're about to ritual it up again.
Ritual it up.
Yeah, we're about to ritual it, out here.
That's how the kids say it on the streets these days.
That's right.
I think. Yeah.
It's good.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, all the things that you're supposed to do on YouTube and so forth.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yes, all that. Yeah, like, comment, all that. But anyway, thanks for watching and stay solar.